why you always write repair, paint, test. This is a facility, detention center for kids 17 and younger. So if your detention doesn't get you, coming out of the fire escape might. But look at all that rust at a detention center. This is schools. This is platforms. It takes to grow a quarter inch of rust on a tread, takes 25 years. To grow half an inch, almost 50 years. How many years did it take to grow this piece? Now, your problem is that you guys keep walking up and down these 75-year-old fire escapes, which you're not going to do that anymore, unless it has a white tag. You'll have more than enough information when you open up the windows to look out. We're going to teach you how to look at connections, and from the ground, you're going to look up looking for original hardware and evidence of rust in all the connections, right? That's all you need to see to write your violations. But the problem with you guys in the middle of the night when you're going up and down stair treads is how you fall. If you're going up the stairs and you fall through a set of stairs, you're going to fall backwards and do what you need. Bend it, break it, or, hurt it. But if you're going down the set of stairs and your foot goes through the stairs and you snap your knee forward, is that life-changing for you? Career-ending? So this is what's happening out there on connections that are out there. These little silent hand grenades are waiting for you and your men, either during fires or during inspections. And this is what happens. This is a 3-pound hammer test. Good pound? Oh, what was that? Good pound?
Okay, I think that's it. Want to straight up?
Okay, that was a 3-pound hammer. Most of you will exert that force or more just going down a stair and just stepping on the left side and on the right side, just going down. That hammer test is not a fire escape inspection. That hammer test is a safety inspection as we're walking up these things to find hidden hand grenades. Because we pound the hand grenade and see if it'll blow up. And did that one blow up? And did he want to continue? He doesn't have to. He's got enough evidence. Even if it's 10 stories, he has enough evidence to show lack of maintenance, original hardware, and what's the answer? You've got to totally refurbish the fire escape. We're done with the inspection. We don't need to go back up and identify every little one. If he's got no hex head bolts anywhere, we already know, from the ground we already know the issue. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to this one. Cantilevers. See this cantilever right here? See this cantilever right there? See this one right here? They have one thing in common. They're out of balance. I'm going to tell you how cantilevers work. And they call it a release mechanism. They have a release arm on them. It's called a release cantilever. Release ladders and release cantilevers. So when you release them, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to drop. Drop at 2 to 3 feet per second. Hit the ground and stay down. Does that just make sense? Now, if they don't go down and you got to assist it or you push it down and it comes back up with yourself by itself, does that make sense?
No.
So when I get a ladder like this and I'm in the center of town and I got nosy fire inspectors or building inspectors, if you walk by my building and it looked like this or it looked like this, will you write me up on something? If it starts pointing to the sky, does it even look logical for it to be doing that? So I don't want any attention from you guys. So I go to Home Depot because I called the guy to say, hey, how much to rebalance my cantilever, this thing here? Oh, it's a couple $1,000. Oh, really? So I'm going to go to Home Depot and get me some $25 worth of chain because I don't want to get a write-up. So I take a chain and I tie it back here and I pull it up and I tie it anywhere I can to make it do what? Go horizontal. So if you see a chain on a cantilever, what's it there for? And it's tied off to a flagpole. It's always going to be tied off to some crazy thing, and it looks like a tie, and there was a bolt. It doesn't look original to the construction of the fire escape. So every fire escape that you remember in your head that's in your downtown that has a chain on it, it's a out of balance fire escape. Now I'm going to tell you how the normal procedure is for a woman and a child coming down during a fire. This is a little story. You come down the fire escape, and right now, let's say it's out of balance and it's a little bit tilted backwards. The woman's 150 pounds and she has a 50-pound child dragging her behind her, right? Does she usually put the child in front or behind her? Most mothers. Going down a set of stairs.
Behind her.
Behind her, so she's dragging this little kid who's screaming because there's a fire. The moms got out, they're scared as it is, they go down, they get on the cantilever, and they walk out 1 or 2 stairs, and this thing's out of balance, weighted backwards. Does it go down? No. She goes out 3 to 5. Does it go down? It'll start. She's already, 3 to 5 is already out here somewhere. And then she does 1 or 2 more steps, and then what happens? She starts coming down to 2 to 3 feet per second, or 5 to 10 feet per second. 5 to 10, and as it starts coming down, what does she do? She locks up. She screams, the child screams, and then all of a sudden it violently hits the ground, and then what happens?
The kid goes.
Well, the kid's behind her. One possibility, she's gonna catapult out, and what happens to the kid? Back up. But she holds on. She holds on, and then all of a sudden she walks down the rest of the cantilever, dragging her kid and screaming now. And this 150-pound woman steps off the last tread with her kid behind her, and what happens? Goes back up. What happens to that kid? Airborne. But that kid holds on. Not make this a tragic story. You guys want to start having, you guys have seen too many things. So the kid holds on and screaming. 12 feet up. These are all 12 to 14 feet up in the air wide, so trucks don't hit them. 12 to 14 feet up in the air. The child is screaming on the tip of the cantilever, and is it coming down with a 50-pound child there? Nope. So the mother says, what to the kid? Jump. Well, the kid jumped 4 feet to her mother's arms. So 12 feet, the kid's screaming, the mother's screaming, jump, 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 and the kid's crying, the mother's crying, the firemen haven't arrived yet, nobody's there, and you've got a fire in the building that she just got out. She self-evacuated only to find herself trapped by the very thing that started the whole process, right? So she's sitting there, jump, 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 and she says, you know what? You don't think this mother will just go back into a burning building to save her child, would you? Yeah? So the mother starts running for the front door. Do you have the keys to the front door? No. So she starts running to the front door, and she's screaming and yelling. She's trying to get in. She'll kick that door down to get in. But just then, guess who shows up? You guys do. You're like, hey, what are you doing? My kid, and she's screaming and crying. You guys go, no, we got it, we got it. And you guys go back there, and you go up there, and where's the kid? For you.
Went back inside the car.
12 feet up? No, the kid didn't go back. Kids will sit there and they'll scream and yell, and then you're telling the kid to do what?
Jump.
Jump! And the kid didn't jump for his mother, he's gonna jump for you. So you run, all this time's ticking, right? All of a sudden you run back to your truck and you get a pole. You do what?
Hook it and
Hook
pull
it,
it down.
and you pull it down. That's how it's supposed to work, right? That's how fire escape cantilevers are designed? For firemen to operate them and pull them down? Right?
That's not the way it's designed.
No. So obviously somebody, it's not working correctly, but you use what you had, and you pull it down, and the kid, reunited with the mother, self-evacuates, continues with the process. You put your foot on it to do what? To hold it there. Why? Because who needs to get back in the building now? The other 6 guys that came with you. So now you got a guy that is now a foot stock, doing what to the cantilever? Just hold it there. And 5 guys now fight the fire, not 6. And depending who that guy is that started it, he might have to swap out with somebody. Say, hey, it's usually the low man on the pole. Yo, get over here, hold this fire escape. And there's fires and stuff dangling up above and all things going on. Because if he lets that go, what happens?
12 feet in the air.
12 feet in the air. Now we'll get my ladders. I mean, you guys, we're talking minutes here to change the course of a fire. So you understand why cantilevers must be balanced. And if they have a release arm on them, isn't it always also an anti-theft device? Because can I pull it down if the release arm is engaged?
No.
So a release arm releases the cantilever, drops by itself 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, stays down. People self-evacuate. Because how many people you want in the building when there's a fire? And if they can help themselves, you want to have them wait till you guys get there? Get everybody out of the building. If you can self-evacuate, then you're going to use the fire escape for 1 of 2 things: to get back in the building or to get out of the building. The weight box in the back. Got a release arm on this. This is in Chicago. Release arm. And I was explaining, does the release arm working properly? No. So let's see if we can, because somebody bent a piece, but Now you release it, 2 to 3 feet per second. Hits the ground and stays down? Is it a violent activity? Can you do this too many times on a cantilever? Or is it once every 5 years you keep it, you limit how many times cantilevers come down? It's a violent activity, and what's the reason why they're 12 to 14 feet off the ground? And if you start seeing this, you can see how close they get. This wasn't staged, this just happened to happen right at the moment while we were doing this, and let's see how close. So if this cantilever was not balanced, which it is, and perfectly horizontal, how much room do they have, and can any truck driver see that thing up in the air when he's backing up?
No.
So now, notice this one that he's gonna back on. See the chain? See the false chain there? See somebody just wrapped a piece of chain and tied it up? Just to make it horizontal? Otherwise, if that was hanging lower, what would have happened with his truck backing into it?
We cleared it off the building.
It would just rip it. Okay? This is in Waltham, Massachusetts. You guys have a few of these around, don't you? Now, we were they were using this tower to train until the day I got there. Because when I got there, I started doing my hammer test, all the treads started falling. So it's just not, individuals that don't fix their fire escapes. And by the way, we do inspect towers free of charge. So if you guys have any training towers, we use it to do 2 things. We actually go there with some of you people and actually have you inspect your own training tower, just so you can use it as information. A lot of your training towers are in this kind of condition, inside and out. This is an inside shot right there, because you guys pour so much water down those towers. Look at all the rust. It needs air and water. What do you got plenty of on this tower? Rust. Rust. 1 inch of rust. Smashes. Crashes. These treads fell from a hammer test. Had it been you doing anything, just going up to save somebody, going up to check on somebody, going up to do anything, you fall through one of these, and these things occur, and I'll show you an event. This is a city hall. See all the missing treads over here? All the broken treads? This is a city hall.
That from the mayor's office, it's okay.
Yeah, that's right to the mayor's office. The main issue too, that we're gonna be talking about today, guys, is that 97% of a fire escape is outside the building, and we can guarantee that. That's just any connection, we verify that there's no rust in that connection, and we change the bolt. If I do that, will you be satisfied that the structural part of the fire escape can be somehow certified to your liking, in lieu of a load test? Because I can still do a load test. I can even do a combination of the 2. Fix some bolts and load test the whole thing. But if I change the bolt and I can give you evidence that there's no rust in that connection, that thing has been refurbished to a like-new status, do I need a load test? Now, let's talk about, that's 97% of all fire escapes I will be able to identify with a violation. Guess what I can't see, because I need an x-ray or I need to do exploratory work? How it ties into the building. We're going to cover with you, there's only 2 ways that fire escapes are attached to the building. Cemented into the building, and this is the veneer, this is the coarse. This is the structural. This is pretty. This is where it's tied in. Or it's through bolted somehow, with a plate on a wood structure. So if you ever see a lax screw on anything,
That's a problem.
you see an expansion bolt on anything, it's illegal.
That's a problem.
So it's either cemented into a pocket, or it's lax screw, with a through bolt and a plate on the backside. We're gonna cover that today. But how do I, on a 75-year-old building that you want me to inspect, how do I verify these connections without blowing this out? I call a mason in the area, so listen, I got this 10-story building, I've got a lot of veneer, I've got some rusty tiers coming down, so I'm seeing some activity. See the rusty tiers? So the guy goes, yeah, for about $250 to $500 a piece, I can blow open some areas there, and we can do some sampling to see if in the 75-year history of this building, was there any rainwater in the parapet wall that came down and somehow got in between the veneer and the structural and ate that. Because look how good the steel is out here. Look how bad it is inside there. I can't see that without an x-ray or without exploratory work, and he's giving me a price, $250 to $500. because he's got to take it all apart, and then he's got to put it all back together. It's not an unreasonable cost, is it, for a mason to go there and blow this? Okay, now, if I take a connection 5 inches away, and I drill a 3/4 hole, 12 inches deep, 8 to 12 inches deep, and I put a new Hilti epoxy bolt down there, with permits and the whole thing, and then I clip back to this thing with an angle clip, and I clip back and I bolt this connection, so I keep the original, right, and I clip this thing back, and it costs me $50 to $100 per connection. Which one is cheaper for the client and less destructive to the building? Right, so I can nullify this concern of yours about this very old historic building by doing what? Blowing $250 to $500 per support to satisfy you with photographs? Or can I just nullify it by simply duplicating the connection simply because of age? Because do I need to do this on a 25-year-old building? But a 75-plus-year-old building, I got my mason quote. He wants almost $5,000 to basically confirm all these connections. Or for $50 to $100, I'm putting new epoxy bolts and I'm still keeping the originals. I just let sleeping dogs lie. Because do I care about that connection and what condition it is inside the building anymore if I have a duplicate connection next to it, which is a 3/4 round rod, 8 to 12 inches deep epoxy bolt protected by a Hilti insurance policy? Will that satisfy you? So 97% of the fire escape I can prove to you is free of rust and rebolted. And this stuff into the wall, I've chosen to go the cheaper route for the client, and I've duplicated the connection, not fixed it. I will always fix it on the outside. I'm gonna it's gonna be packed, correctly. You don't have to veneer. It's not gonna be spalling or anything. It's gonna be packed and sealed. But do I care? Do I have to verify inside anymore if I got an epoxy bolt 5 inches away? Will that satisfy you? Right? Because do I still need to load test it? If I've changed every bolt on the fire escape, that's 97% of the fire escape, and the 3% of the unknown, I went in and duplicated every connection. Do I need a load test? No. Because in lieu of a load test nationwide, a certified repair is what you want, and you want them to go out of their way to prove to you that this thing is safe for who? The occupants. The next guys are the firefighters. Have I done that by basically changing the bolts on the fire escape, reconnecting it back to the building, and if the guy doesn't want to do either one, because dude, I've been painting this fire escape every 5 years, all those bolts are pristine. My grandpa had a bolt factory and I used the best bolts back in 75 years ago. What do you say? And I just painted it. I do not want to drill holes in my building. I do not want to change any of these bolts because my grandpa gave me every one of these.
Load tested.
Load test, we're all done. Give me a certified repair that some engineer is going to go out of his way to confirm to me that the occupants and my firemen are going to be safe with no disclaimers, and he's going to sign this confidence test, or give me a load test. So has anything changed since you guys came in this morning? Right? We're just describing more now what is a critical examination. What is a certified repair? And are you going to be using load tests? Is this a class that stop making you guys do load tests? Or is this a class to basically start teaching what a certified repair could really mean? Because some people are not going out of their way to do what with you guys during the inspection phase? Talk to you about it. They're not going out of their way to convince you that everybody else does. Sprinkler guys go out of their way to prove to you that the sprinkler was properly installed. Smoke detector guys go out of their way to make sure that everything is properly installed. Central station alarm systems they go out of their way to prove that the thing was, you got plans and conversations and, my God, somebody doing anything on fire protection on a building, they can't move ahead until they sat down with you and did what? Convinced you of what? That the plan that they have is acceptable to you. Has anybody ever come down and provided you with a plan of what's acceptable to repair this fire escape? And how they're going to watch it and sign off on it before you even get there? Well, that's what fire escape inspections are. Confidence tests need oversight. Nobody's going to pull a permit and repair a fire escape without an engineer oversight. They don't need city official oversight. The permit process is the city official oversight. But they're not going to go there to check in. You're going to allow fire escapes to be repaired under engineer oversight, because an engineer who's signing off, who did the original inspection, now must have 3 to 5 visits to watch the fire escape being repaired, so he can sign off on the end with a confidence test that says what? Fire escape has been certified repaired. Here's my signature, no disclaimers. And all that so that his owner, or his client, doesn't get a load test thrown on him too. You guys got a lot of power. This is what verification looks like. Because sometimes people say, no, just verify the connections. Okay, I gotta drill a bunch of holes in your wall. I gotta send this little snake down there, take photographs. Right? If I take the same hole that I did it 5 inches away, isn't it the same process? Why verify a hole only to fill it with cement after the fact, when if I can just go 5 inches away, put a new hole in there, mechanically fasten it back to the original connection, which is better for the client? Destructive, investigative activity, or that's a big monster hole? Because sometimes 3/4 is not enough. It doesn't hit the steel. I can't see any steel. Guess what I have to do? I have to do another hole next to it and open it up a little bit more so I can get my little snake down there. What's quicker, what's faster? This, or a hole, the same 3/4 drill, 5 inches away?
Yeah, the reconnect.
And in some cases, you can unify all the connections by getting underneath a 12-foot platform, taking a 3x3 piece of angle, with holes every 2 feet or every 3 feet. And basically, we just put epoxy bolts down on the whole angle and make it come up and tuck underneath all the supports and do what? Wherever it tucks, we put another clip to the support, clip back to the angle. Now you've unified the entire platform. In order for that platform to come down, what has to happen? Wall has to give. Do I have a problem when the wall gives? When the wall gives, dude, we're all done. Okay? So that's what the inside of these things look like during an investigation. Can you decipher some of this stuff, or you have to have a little bit of expertise? So why go through this? Why do I want to go burying and digging into a hole when I can just duplicate the connection and it's cheaper and faster for the client? Okay? These are the plates on the inside. Now, just so you know, on average, depending on what region of the country you are, 95%, 98% of all the connections, cement are just through the veneer, right into the block walls. Only a few old mills will have through bolts that come all the way through. But this is the type of plating I'm expected to see on a wood structure. Okay, this is what I expect to see on the inside of a wall. If I pull a hole through the sheetrock, I'm expecting to see a plate on the inside that goes out to a bolt and a nut on the outside on a wood structure. Okay? Live load testing. I already told you what it was, 4x4, 1,600 pounds. And what can I do? I can put sandbags, water bags that equal 1,600 pounds. I can also pull a truck underneath it. And then I can use this system in that day, and this is actually the farscape in California. I needed 3,000 pounds. I'm already at 2986, so I'm lifting the tail of a truck to give me 3,000 pounds. Because I didn't want to bring 3,000 pounds. I put 3,000 pounds on the ground. You can use anything you want, even a truck. You pick up the tail of a truck and you just start lifting it. And you exert 3,000 pounds. All with engineer oversight. You got to take measurements. I got a load test. This is a load test. For the first, in a 30-second trial, aside from all the photographing and all the measurements I got to take, 40% of the load is put on in the first 10 minutes. If nothing creeps, pulls away, or deflects more than 3/16 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch, I can then apply the remaining 60% of the load for another 20 seconds to take measurements again, and it can't deflect more than 3/16 of an inch. Otherwise it fails the test. That's a load test. 10 stories, repeat that 10 times. Because you can't load 10 stories all at the same time. So here we are, lifting the tail. So you can use anything you want that's weights on the ground, engineer oversight. And what's this load test for? For these hidden violations. Because when you're load testing a farscape, 97% of it has got all rebolted, all redone. Am I worried about anything on the outside of a farscape when I'm load testing it? But I am worried about what I didn't see because I couldn't open it up. I couldn't see it. But on this farscape, a lot of the photographs you saw was us verifying the connections into the wall. Missing pieces? I showed you earlier on we have missing pieces. Who falls to the ground? Occupants, and who else might fall to the ground? Firefighters. Firefighters, you guys fall through fire escapes? Yep, here's a New York case that we were on that's since settled. The uniqueness about this case is that the firefighter went up and 3 of these treads gave way because he was, I think he was venting. And he fell through, landed here, went back up. I believe there was a woman and a child up there, and that window brought that people down, but then when he finally got down to the ground, he had severely injured his back and his spine. 27 years old, no longer a firefighter. The uniqueness of this case is that he was on disability and, and leave, but he sued the owner directly. Because this wasn't a accident that was, a job-related accident. This was negligence, and that's what he tried to prove. He tried to prove that the owner had not repaired that fire escape in over 25 years, so that this was negligence that got him to be hurt. And when we did the investigation, we proved that when we got there, the whole fire escape was still condemned, except for those 3 treads, 2 years after the accident. So when we got there, treads were falling. I was going up to go investigate those 3 treads, and the fire escape was falling on me. So we were videotaping this and recording this all the time. So very quickly after this case, they settled, because when we brought this information back, the owner didn't want to expose the rest of his assets, and they settled pretty quickly. This right here is going to tell you the life of a connection. I think I already proved to you that connections basically start from the inside out. This is a typical tread. And when you put the fire escape 75 years ago with rivets or bolts, the fact that you have it encapsulated with paint, paint's the first thing that gives at joint. So when you have a painted fire escape and it heats up and it does this, and it cools down and it does this, what's the first thing to crack and split? Paint. So that's how water gets in here. If you don't get to it and stay on top of it, that's when it penetrates. So a lot of times, you guys are walking on fire escapes that have like 1/8 of rust in every connection, and it's still solid. You know why it's solid? Because it's got a shaft of a bolt or shaft of a rivet still holding it there, and it's eating it. And you're not gonna fall 50 years ago. Okay? 50 years ago to 75 years ago when this was occurring, no one was falling. "25 years ago, this is what a 1/4 inch of rust looks like on a rivet or a bolted connection. So 25 years ago, it was at this point. And when you have a connection that's this tight, that's now a 1/4 inch away, and the only thing that's holding my clip from falling is this piece of shaft, and you keep bringing me to the edge, what eventually happens? So the reason why none of your fellow firefighters fell 50 to 75 years ago, because the shaft was saving them. 25 to 50 years ago, the shaft is still saving them. Today, and into the future, what do you have? Is there any shaft left? So this is just timing. It's not like all of a sudden fire escapes are a big issue for you. No. 25, 50, 75 years ago, it was an issue, but nobody was repairing them. And all of a sudden now, we've run out of shaft. And when you guys step on these things, when occupants step on these things, they're stepping on a 75-year-old connection that's been what's called rust jacking. They've just been pushing out, just like ice jacks things apart, rust jacks things apart. A 1/4 inch of rust will go to 1 inch. And this is what happens. This is how people are getting hurt nowadays. This is how much rust we found 2 years after the incident. And I didn't do a hammer test yet, this was a foot test. So that case settled for the firefighter. Very quickly, let's take a look at the wall. If anybody has any questions right now, because this is we're getting to the tail end of it. We'll briefly go over some of the tags. We'll answer any and all questions right now. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because I'm just going to show you how fire escapes are built. And I already did speak to it very quickly through this part. But does anybody have any questions now that I could answer? Either an event that occurred or something that I've said so far that they agree or disagree with? Anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question regarding the tags. The tags, are they coming from an association, or is it something, I realize that you more or less have it made up
Yes.
standard that you have.
Yeah.
Okay, which is fine, but it had to start somewhere. But are there other companies issuing?
Right now, that's the beauty, is that we basically call these industry standard tags. It's currently in use by some fire departments, so if all of a sudden you say, Cisco, I don't like your tags, okay, then you may want to use Seattle's tags, another fire department, Tacoma's tags. Tagging is a standard. It's not that the wording and everything on a tag has to be standard, the fact that you're putting up a tag, you guys already tag fire pumps. You guys tag systems with a card system, don't you, a yellow, red? So you can invent your own tagging system to start tagging fire escapes. And here's the beauty, in Seattle, they have to do what's called an administrative rule change to the fire code. In Boston, you have to do what's called an ordinance change in order if you want to get tags and things accepted. I was made aware in a class that I did probably a month ago that you don't have to do either administrative rule change or you don't have to do an ordinance change where you need the local selection to accept something like this. You can just do what's called a departmental procedure. And all it is, and I have one, I'm going to share it with you today. A departmental procedure is nothing but a document that's a general notice. It has the code on there, and I'll show you one today. I just built it this weekend because once I got the state inspector to tell me you really don't need to use ordinances and administrative rule change, which is an uphill climb. He goes, you should need to follow some industry standard guidelines. So if you generalize the statement in the departmental procedure, and that's what I did, I generalized what an inspection procedure is for you. I generalized what the repair procedure is for you, following the code. And I generalized what the painting procedure is going to be based on EPA guidelines. And it's basically a layman's view of what the code means down below. You're going to fully explain it afterwards anyway, because some people are going to read that and still don't know what you're talking about. But it's 3 steps in a fire escape. You need to inspect it, read the layman's terms. You're going to repair it, read the layman's terms, and it says pull a permit. And it says paint it. Read the terms, because now EPA is kind of involved. So you adopt this as a departmental procedure. You can use it as is, or you can say, you know what? We're going to make up our own. On our little letterhead, we just copy and pasted what he said there, put it on the letterhead, and you set it up. There's an acceptance. Okay? But some of these things are already in play in New York, New Jersey, Seattle, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Does it have to become a state law? No. It's an industry standard guidelines. Now, that's one of the reasons why we started the National Fire Escape Association. Because some of this stuff is just sitting out there and we need to house it in a museum somewhere. So that's why we launched the National Fire Escape Association. The membership is every firefighter, every building department, every housing inspector has free access and free admission as a member. But every vendor, such as fire escape guys, engineers, architects, painters, contractors, they pay to become a member so they can get this information. So every time you need a standard, we're starting to put it in there so that way the voting body will now have national standards that come from the National Fire Escape Association. It's put up by a bunch of people, yes.
Is there a national standard on how often a code that should be performed on each and every fire escape?
Very good question. Here's the standard nationwide. The law started, and we'll use Boston as an example, the Uniform Building Code that said all fire escapes must be maintained at all times. So if there's no inspection date, guess what happens to that law? Gets abused, gets ignored, and then somebody dies. Something happened in Boston, so they basically took that code, which says all fire escapes must be maintained at all times, and said, no, we want it inspected every 5 years. So nationally, the average is you structurally inspect the fire escape every 5 years. In some areas, such as California, they want you to inspect the fire escape every year, but do a structural every 5, but inspect it every 1 year, ladders and moving components. Now, we recommend that on all buildings, and this is our recommendation only, in our classes that we teach just like this, we say that if a building goes through a fire escape refurbishment today and gets a sign-off of the competence test in lieu of a load test, we recommend that if that building is 50 to 75 years old or 75 to 100 years old, that you order an immediate test on anything that's 75 to 100 years old, you order an immediate load test, and then a load test will not have to be done on that particular building for another 25 years. So it got fully refurbished, fully reconnected, and then you order the load test. Immediately or within the next 5-year cycle, you get that person to put their pennies aside, because it's gonna cost them a few bucks, to load test. Even though they're refurbished, the load test is not really for the refurbishment, the load test is for, the structure's 100 years old, we just don't want a wall collapse. Any building that's 50 to 75 years old, we recommend that the fire escape be load tested, but you give them a 5-year heads up, like, hey, we'll take this confidence test now, good job on refurbishing it, but be aware that the next time, between now and 5 years, we would like a load test, and then every 25 years on that building. So that's our recommendation, that a fire escape does go once in its lifetime minimally through a load test, and depending how old it is, you can initiate that. Because I wouldn't recommend the load test for a fire escape that's 25 years old, on a fresh building. But it's really up to you. There could have been earthquake, there could have been a truck hit, there could have been many reasons why you now, the whole wall test. Now, we've also said that in that 25-year period, this should not be considered a fire escape inspection. It should be a wall inspection that the fire escape is currently attached to. So in a 25-year cycle of inspection, it's a wall inspection for the whole entire wall of which the fire escape is currently a part of, that's all. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of a wall inspection that picks up the fire escape. Does that make sense to you guys on the 25-year rule? Because the 5-year inspection rule keeps picking up the everything external to the wall. Okay? Any other questions on that? Yes?
Why isn't there an NFPA standard for this?
Very good. Quincy, Massachusetts, they're 15 minutes away from me. I've called them up and said, hey, they go, yeah, you gotta be part of a committee 3 to 5 years later, we're gonna be kicking it around. I get more results on a grassroots level like this. But yes, I'm working that angle, but one man, one flag.
To
But-
be honest with you, you've written a standard for the company, you do your own work.
Yeah.
So that kind of,
Oh, I know.
you know what I mean?
That's why we started the National Fire Escape Association, so not only can I have my work, as a matter of fact, anybody that can be contributing to it. The fact is that nobody wants to write anything, so I can't punish myself for writing something that, I saw a need. But my problem is that a lot of times when I'm coming out saying, hi, I'm Fire Escape Services, here's a way to do it, they're like, oh, you're a profit guy, there's a hidden agenda there. So we said, okay, so let's have an association that basically everybody here is a voting member of, and you basically, the standards are out there, and there's 400 or 500 videos out there. There's also some fire departments and building departments are taking some of these and utilizing them immediately, putting them into play immediately, because it's just common sense stuff. So, but yes, everything has to be scrubbed and cleansed so that it's generic and it goes, so.
We don't let the sprinkler guys and fire alarm guys write their own code, so it's.
Yeah, right. Well, no, they can help in writing the code. They can't write their own code, they help in write. So I went down that it's a committee that I have to create and join, and it's 3 to 5 years from now, yes. So I couldn't wait 3 to 5 years, so I did this, and I get more results out of firefighters than I get out of building departments. Because I've never seen a dead building department guy on the ground after a fire, or before a fire.
We won't either.
You understand? So I've had a lot more. So this is the other piece now. And I always say this, why not NFPA? Do you have an in of who I should be talking to? You say, hey, you need to talk to Gerald White.
Okay.
And that's the guy that's gonna get you immediately starting a yeah, help me. Sometimes I knock on a door and when they look out the people, I'm not high enough on their list of important people. This thing is killing occupants and firemen. I don't think I've had anything higher, but I have a better meeting. If I change one guy here that goes out and I teach him about square head bolts and rivets, and he understands where rust comes from, and then he changes, the rest of his time at that city, I get more results out of this. So I am trying to do a national standard, and that's why we formed the National Fire Escape Association. It's just for that. So that as that starts going out there and being the presenter of these things, it's more readily accepted. And yes, we'll go for accreditation so we can give you this class, and then at the end I'll sign a bunch of cards and give you 2 credits apiece and blah, 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 whatever. So that's coming, but one thing at a time, and that's, I have to fish every day so I can feed my family, and then at the same time, this is a free class. And I do these free classes nationwide. Seattle, Chicago, they don't pay me to go out there. But I have inspections, so a lot of times, I'll teach a class in Houston because I happen to be inspecting something in Houston. So next week, I'm supposed to be up and you'll see, and if you go to our website, firescapeservices.com, on training, you'll see all the classes I've done. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Chicago, Houston, Washington, D.C., And the funny thing, the story that I'm telling them is the same story I'm telling you, so I should just use one video and then send it out to everybody. So some people will watch videos, but some people need this live stuff here. I don't know if anybody wants, I got another 15 minutes, if that's all right with you. Sure. If you guys want to take, a couple of minutes, grab your coffee, and I'll just keep, as you grab your coffee, I'll just keep going along, but this is how it's put together. And then we'll end this up on a quick slideshow of what the pieces are, but feel free to get up right now and grab yourself some coffee. All steel, through the veneer, into the masonry. This is how every fire escape in the United States is built. If it's a masonry building, it goes through the veneer into the masonry. The structural is here. Whenever you see a blowout, you see the blowout on the veneer only. Guess what they don't fix? Guess what every vendor doesn't know how to fix? I shouldn't say every, but most vendors will not fix what's internal. They always give it the makeup job right out here. Okay? And this is what it looks like. So when a vendor comes in here, you think he's going to remove a bunch of these bricks to get back to the meat of the situation? So he's going to give you a quick cement job right here, and it looks great. It looks tight because the veneer is tight. That's structural. If I put a hole here 5 inches away and I put an epoxy bolt, 3/4 epoxy bolt, 8 to 12 inches deep, and then I mechanically fasten it back, whatever way I can, back to the connection. Now can I seal this and then call the new connection my primary? Will that satisfy you from not writing a load test on my client? Perfect, let's keep on going. This has a brace right there, holding no staircases. This has no brace right here, holding 2 staircases, and falling apart. Okay? These things are out there. It's only buried into the wall how deep? 8 to 12 inches. Can this thing carry a load of occupants and firemen without collapsing the whole staircase of the platform? It'll just blow out that wall. So you either put a leg on it or you put another brace on it. This is what brackets look like. A lot of your original hardware, you'll see it right there and right there. A lot of the water driven into the building is on this little chute right there. That's what it looks like. Is this a structural problem or a veneer problem? It's a structural problem. The only thing you can see, though, is the veneer. So I can close this up. Can I put a piece of angle on the other side and reattach 5 to 8 inches with an epoxy bolt? Not epoxy. I don't have to use on the bottom an epoxy. I can use an expansion bolt. Can I do that? So do I want to open up this thing and take out all these bricks and see how deep it is and what the problem is inside? Or can I let sleeping dogs lie? Just make another connection to the left of it. And then in lieu of a load test, will you allow this certified repair? This is what connections look like on some mill buildings. They have the through bolts. But this is what happened. There's so much pressure that they blow the bricks if the plate is not big enough. Okay? It'll start sucking through. It'll crush bricks. You get a lot of water on fire escapes, a lot. So if you want to grow moss and ivies and stuff, this is called rust jacking. Rust jacking is when rust gets between 2 pieces of anything, mainly 2 pieces of steel, and it just starts growing rust and it blows things apart. Just like ice jacking, this is called rust jacking. This is 1 inch of rust. 25 years gets you a quarter, 50 years gets you ½ inch. This is a library in Boston. To grow this 1 inch, how long? The lifetime of the building. Am I the only guy that can see this? This thing's probably been inspected before. Fire marshals and building inspectors have walked up this library 1,000,000 times. I'm the only one that can see this? So you have to understand that we're going to teach you that you're not even supposed to be on this fire escape to see this. You know what I'm saying? Because look at the hardware. You're going to start looking at the hardware. That's all original bolts. In case you want to grow ferns, it's a great place for fire escapes to grow ferns. You get driven water, because a lot of these are, And the last one is when you have basically what we call bridges. This lake to the ground usually sits on the sono. This building is a lake, and you have a bridge. Okay? And then the last one that we're going to be talking about, we have a structural problem or a veneer problem here? Structural. Can you see the structural? You can't see the structure, the veneer is blocking it, you can't see the structure, you don't know what's wrong with the structural. So the veneer is the only thing you can't see. You know, if you investigate what's going on, somebody, you have to come in here and remove more bricks. Or can you basically put this thing back together and make a whole new connection to the side of it? Right? So you have a choice. Spend thousands of dollars blowing out all these bricks, then reattach it back into the building structurally, and then re-veneer it. Or can I just re-veneer it, put a new connection off to the side? Wood structures. All wood structures must have through bolts. Okay? No lag screws. All wood structures must have through bolts. And you'll see a piece of 3/4 rod or 5/8 rod sticking out, not 1/2 inch, not 1/4 inch. The minimum is 5/8, but the norm is 3/4 coming out. You see a big nut on it and it got hacked off. The excess got hacked off what was left on, and you'll see a big piece of rod sticking out, threaded rod. That means there's a plate inside, creating a sandwich. In order for that to come down, a piece of the wall must come down. No wood structure can have lag screws. They can have lag screws to hold it in position, but they all need a through bolt up at this position. Cantilevers. See what a release arm does? A release arm is made so that even stupid people run through them. And when stupid people run through them, what do? They activate something. They activate the cantilever system, which drops at 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down, because by the time they push this bar that is blocking you, they push it away or run through it, pick one, it activates and releases the cantilever. And when the cantilever starts dropping, that's a release arm right there, see? Is that also an anti-theft device? Right? Because if it's engaged, can I pull down the cantilever and break into the building? But now this thing is activated, is it doing anything? See the chain? That chain with that little wraparound up there is your first clue that the fire escape is out of balance. Fully painted, who cares? There's a chain on it, it's out of balance, and you look at the original hardware, these are hex heads or square heads.
Original?
I know you can't tell, but does it look like it's new hardware? Does it look like there's any evidence of maintenance anywhere?
No.
So that's the other one. You walk by any building, you're looking for a change in bolts, and they're that distinctive from each other. Seeing none, who cares if it's painted? That's only half the code, right? They must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. What have they completed already? The paint side, great. What about the structural? So, brand new painted fire escapes, you're gonna basically violate. You're gonna be sending them a repair paint violation test. They're like, what's this repair paint violation? I just had the thing worked on last week. Yeah, good job painting. I will not need the paint side of it done. You're done. Now go get it inspected by a structural engineer, because you got nothing but original hardware, and I wanna know who the guy that sent me this certificate was, because I need to speak with him, because he's not gonna inspect this way ever in my city. I'm gonna let him continue to inspect if he follows the standard. Otherwise, this guy will never sign off another fire escape like this in my city again. And if he needs videos to go see, he can go to Fire Escape Academy and watch our video, because I'll send him our video class that says, I know what's going on here. There's nothing better when you have an engineer that you're dealing with. He says, well, what do you want? He says, well, I happen to have a link to my class that I just took, so you know what I'm looking for now. And it's only a 2-hour class, why don't you listen to it? Otherwise, I'll see you in a meeting, because I have sprinkler meeting, I have a fire door meeting, I have a fire pump meeting, and now this afternoon between 3:30 and 5 o'clock, I can have a fire escape meeting regarding that building. And I want to see what plan you've come up with that I will accept, so that I don't order a load test. This is what cantilevers look like when people start adding weights and start configuring them and playing around with them and doing all kinds of crap. Trash trucks and things hit these things all the time. These things get repaired without engineer oversight. Just smash that big and you let an engineer. By the way, if a truck hit a cantilever, you know what we call it to the client? We call it a fire escape lottery ticket. You know why? Because I have to fix that fire escape and bring in the entire system back to operational condition. So if they got a 5-story and they only smashed the bottom 2 stories, guess what I have to fix? The entire fire escape, even if he hasn't been keeping it up. So I call it a fire escape project. This is your best, worst day, I tell the client. So we do an inspection, we satisfy you guys, make sure that we have a good plan, pull the permit, make sure that the vendors pull the permit, and staircases, they gotta be properly tied, so it's not like a ledge you fall through, it's the entire staircases can let go. See all that rust in that stringer clip? Yes, Dave?
No, he's got a question.
Huh? Oh, question, yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, couldn't the property owner go after the trucking company for hitting that?
They do, that's why it's called a fire escape ladders. So if you have the trash truck, now there's no deductible, it's 100% fixed, 5, 10, 25 grand. If it's a hit and run, they have insurance on the building. They pay their $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 deductible, and the rest of it gets fixed. So it's a fire escape ladder. This is a 25-story hotel in Chicago. Is it gonna get occupants or firemen or both?
Yeah.
1 inch of rust on a stringer. In the middle of the night, can you guys see these things? Sometimes in flight. Lottery tickets, they're out there. Railings and connections, tying backs, I mean, I'm just gonna now show you just how rust grows and grows and treads. We already talked about the treads. The spacers on a lot of the gratings, if those open, your foot gets stuck, guess where you're going? You can't fix these. Okay? So our job now is to basically show you that between original hardware and blatant, repairs, see the square head bolt there? See the square head bolt there? But this is what you need to see in order to say that it's bad? Or can you now look at a square head bolt, which is now how old? Does anybody use square bolts today? So anything that still has a square bolt in it is how old? 50 to 75. Anything that has a rivet in it, similar to a bridge, is how old? 75 plus. Now, if you're looking at anything that's an exterior structure, and it's got square head bolts, and it's got a rivet in it, there's only 2 things that you will allow to give you a guarantee, because you're looking for a guarantee in writing, right? One is, the code says you can do is, load test. So the bolt can stay, give me a load test, and in 5 years, you want the same load test again?
Yep.
Right, so, or today, on this structure, can I keep my bolt and put a backup bolt next to it? Yeah. Do I need a load test? No. Do you get the same guarantee? Right? Because in case that fails, guess who we sue?
You.
No, the bolt company. There's a new bolt there. Guess what failed? Did I fail or did the bolt fail? The bolt failed. The original bolt, which is 50 to 75 years, can you sue anybody there? No. But there's a new bolt that was bought at Home Depot, and guess who's getting sued? Because I did everything possible, right? We changed the bolt or reinforced the existing connection with the bolt. Is that a correct statement? So guys, rust is sitting up. How long did this one take? It's a walking hand grenade waiting for guys like you to come up and down. And ladders. We got ladders to the roof. We got all kinds of ladders out there, guys. These are ladders. Anybody ever seen one of these? An accordion ladder. West Coast. They open up just like an accordion. Very stiff, very solid. They can do it out there because there's no snow and ice. They were doing it here, guess what happens? That's why we don't have some great technology. You guys have a lot of these?
Yeah.
A lot of these? That's a weighted ladder system. When it goes down, guess what goes up? These things must be controlled so that they don't, the cable pops, guess what doesn't happen? Ladder systems have to have a release arm or a chain arm, because guess what happens if the cables let go? What happens to that ladder? Guillotines down to the ground. So everything must be under control. Roof ladders must be properly attached. Because who uses this? Occupants or firefighters? Some people have modified their ladders to basically create what's called a flop out. Now, this thing arcs out. And when you push this thing out, and it arcs out, and there's a dog, a child, or a fireman down below, what happens to their skull?
Little bump.
Is this legal? To modify a ladder to do this? No. So if you see any modifications, flop outs, illegal. If it can hurt or kill somebody, in its use, it's illegal. So, let's talk about the plan. Okay? The plan is very simple. Checklist, right? So anybody want to rattle off one place that you're going to put this thing on a checklist? Want to do with a smoke detector? You're going to add it to the bottom of your smoke detector checklist? Right? Is that a good place to start? Your building department, you're going to speak with them, right? And by the way, I got videos for your building department. So this very same video, I got a building department class that you can send to your building department. I got housing inspector classes that you can send to your housing inspector so that everybody can get on board. How can your building department help you starting today? Tying it back to permits. What can they do? What can they make as a checklist on theirs? Regarding permits and the sign off. I said earlier that to close it out, they just need a checklist that says, as part of the closing of any permit on any building, I need a copy of the current certification. That helps you guys, because if they say I don't have one, who writes the violation? They do or you do? If the client doesn't have a certification, who writes the violation? Fire department or building department?
Well, that's
No, it's just a violation. That they don't have a current, the fire escape is currently not certified.
unless
So-
some specific in your local ordinances, which I'm not aware of. Universal, probably not be able to
Okay, so you're gonna have to work with your fire department and your housing, your building department or your housing to see what code they have so that they can write a violation or give you a referral, right? They have the ability to give you a referral, right? That says this fire escape doesn't have a current certification. Fire escapes must be maintained at all times, correct? Isn't that?
I think that's probably where the initial of the building code, where the violation of fire code side, our fire code, we would support, we enforce the NFPA standards. I think-
And there is none there, so.
Right, so then you go to the building code side, I would assume that you're referring to a clause in the uniform building code that would require.
What's your maintenance code? So forget the NFPA, because you're probably looking for what is the standard for repair and inspection. That's coming. Get that?
Because you can't do that.
No, I don't mean this. I'm asking you now, in your own codes, what code, what fire code or building code do you have?
We don't have the state code. Yeah, which is international, by NFPA stuff.
So what is the maintenance code on the NFPA? What part of maintenance of an egress system do they have that says that the means of egress is in a state of deterioration, it needs to be maintained? And if there's anything that's a life safety issue, you can shut that fire escape down. So in the NFPA, where's the code that talks about if anybody has?
Chapter 7.
Okay, so if you can, I do this in 50 states. I don't know all the codes, guys. This is where you guys come in. If somebody's holding some knowledge, this is where you drop it back in now to say, okay, so if I want to write a violation, NFPA,
Yeah,
on
but
fire.
first of all, before you can write that up, it's gonna be as a legitimate fire escape that's gonna be used as a means of egress. Because if it's not a legitimate means of egress, you can't write them up for the code, because it's not gonna apply.
Yeah, we're gonna assume that it's a legit second means of egress,
So
so.
you'd be able to find it in 7 as far as, an egress areas should be kept clear and
Yeah,
maintained.
so that's the
as
obstruction
usual.
rule.
Right.
Must be obstructed, yes.
It might be in NFPA 1, whether that section about general maintenance units has to be maintained, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in,
Anybody? Now this is where you guys just chime in. What is it? Where?
NFPA 1 says any required system needs to be maintained
Okay.
or removed. And if it says, if this is already there as a required second means of egress, then it would have to be maintained.
Right.
But then we kind of get into that, okay, it needs to be maintained, and that's kind of how, you and I ended up kind of hooking up, was that the Cliffside in Newport had a fire escape that was part of a historic building's second means of egress and had been allowed, it had one central staircase. And I was all for, allowing the second means of egress to be the fire escape, which was existing, but it was in pretty poor repair. So I was like, well, how do I know whether or not it should be good or not? And that's sort of how this came about, was, I wanted somebody to be able to say, without all the disclaimers, that I'm comfortable with them saying that this is okay for me to say, without all that knowledge, that, yep, I'm comfortable accepting this, and that's how
So we'll talk about the cliffside. Let me read you the ones in the back is from New Jersey, right? This is the International Fire Code of New Jersey, 1028.6. Do you guys use any of the fire code, International Fire Code, in any way?
No.
Okay. So, but let me tell you what the most of the codes always tend to lean back to it. All exit discharges, exterior stairways, and fire escapes shall be kept free of snow and ice, which is the obstruction law. Any fire escape or exterior stairway found to be in a state of deterioration, which is the deterioration law in the NFPA, or determined to be unsafe, which is what? In what part of the NFPA? Unsafe. When something is determined to be unsafe. So the deterioration, which is a paint job, and unsafe is what part of the NFPA? An unsafe structure, right?
You probably find it in NFPA 1.
Okay, so an unsafe structure to you is gonna have to become from you. What will you determine to be an unsafe structure? So a red fire escape is dangling treads. Is that an unsafe structure to you?
Of course.
Okay, so that's a life safety issue. As soon as you get there, there is no dangling treads, but you look up and you can see original hardware and blown out gussets, Is that an unsafe structure in your mind? And it's not painted. Okay, and all these we'll find in NFPA, and I'll work with him, because as soon as he gives me where it is in the NFPA, I'll make up a general little sheet that says, here's the codes that you guys are kind of going, I'll give it to him, he'll pass it back to you guys. So now, he's deemed it either, the easiest one is a deterioration, which is what? A paint job. Can you use just paint jobs to initiate violations? No. It's a deterioration. It's not being kept painted. No?
We have no standard that says, we have a standard that says your sprinkler system needs to be maintained, tested, all this other stuff, fire alarm systems, kitchen suppression. There's no standard as to, because we might have 30 guys look at that paint job and 2 would say, it's a Newport, it's always gonna have a little bit of rust on it, and move on. There's no standard for us to.
I know, that's what we're trying to do, but our rule of thumb is not so that you're not constantly just bagging everybody on a little bit of rust. Does it got more paint than rust or more rust than paint? Right? So that is something that with each individual, I'm just trying to determine where you can write your violation. And you said that there's a deterioration, which means let's just go with.
If a fire escape or ladder system is used as a second means of egress or escape, then under 101 and 1 and every other code that we have says it has to be maintained.
Which is a paint job.
Maintained in
Well, what's it mean?
immediate use condition.
What's the word maintain to? It needs a paint job?
Of course.
Okay, so now it needs a paint job, minimally, and from this class, you know that rust came from where? From the inside or the outside of that fire escape?
Inside.
And do you, is the connection suspect? Is it to the point of unsafe where it's just blatantly unsafe, or you're gonna order a repair paint test, on that? This is where you guys help me, saying how you want this thing to be written, because I don't write code, I just help you interpret code so that you understand where you can write your violation. And maybe sometimes you have it better written in the building code, and they can help you write it out better. So here you are trying to find a way to lock these guys in with just a simple referral to the building department, say, hey, Jack, can you write a violation on this guy under your code? Yes.
Code, property maintenance code.
Property maintenance code. So I'm just telling you where you have to go to basically, because sometimes, in some states, they can't touch 1 to 3 stories. The fire department can't go anywhere near a 1 to 3 family. They can have a fire escape dangling off the backside of it, and they can't touch it in some states.
That's Rhode Island.
That's Rhode Island.
So now we have a riddle, right? Now, is that riddle answered by you because you're going to close up that loophole, or is that riddle answered by you working in conjunction with, under a fire escape awareness program, with a building department or a property management code that can write that violation, which then sucks you into the play? Which one? I don't know. I'm not here to, I'm just here to basically raise the awareness to say some standards are starting. Can we answer all today? No. But can I make you, can I get each one of you guys never to step on these 75-year-old fire escapes? 25 years ago, I wouldn't say that to you guys. I wouldn't say, hey, don't get on fire escapes. But today I'm telling you, because they're how old now? And the shaft is how far away from that last clip now, right? But can we answer some of this? Yes. And when I said to you, I said, I'll send you some video of training of building inspectors and training of housing inspectors. Why? Because this has to be a joint effort. Because you know who ignored these fire escapes? All three of you. You know who's not going to fix it all by themselves? You. So you have to bring these other guys in and say, our law is laxing what we need in order to write this violation. It's a referral call. You call Jack and say, Jack, please write a violation on this guy for me so I can have this thing. Because I'm trying to get him under deterioration, or I'm trying to get him under an unsafe structure, and I just can't. So can you please write a violation from property maintenance or from whoever? And that's how you're gonna get it. And you give me any of this information, I'll put it into a document that becomes a departmental procedure with the code sitting down there for interpretation. Because I'm not gonna write code or interpret code, I'm just gonna say, here's the general information that's out there, you guys interpret that after you write your violation, or somebody else does, what you're trying to get. And you're trying to get a safe structure for occupants and firemen, who's gonna fight that? The mayor? Because it's gonna come, as you start touching these things that nobody touched for 75 years, you know what you're gonna get?
Pissed off people.
You're gonna get pissed off people, and let's sort of end it there. With that, and I'll sort of end the class there. Pissed off people. Ready? You've got a $5,000 to $25,000 problem every time you touch a 5-story fire escape. Minimum before you start touching, right? Let me tell you the immediate answers. I've got a situation on a fire escape with occupants inside, babies, children, handicapped people, you name it, they're all in there, and you can't close down that building. So, you guys have scaffolding companies down here? If I've got a fire escape on the side of a building and it's horrendous, ready in a state of collapse, can I order some scaffolding on a typical 5-story building and pay anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000? Not you, the owner. Pay $1,000 to $2,000 and have a scaffolding put right next to the fire escape with full sets of stairs inside, tying back into the building. Will that satisfy the egress for a temporary period of time? Just a scaffold, fully qualified scaffolding that basically gets people out of the building. This is so you don't shut it down, because you are going to order, you have your right to order what? You have the right to vacate the building, you have the right to put in a fire watch, and every now and then, you're going to need something, because let's say they can't fix this fire escape, they're in foreclosure, the bank owns it, there's money, I mean, you name all the excuses, but you don't have a second means of egress. Scaffolding is one of them. A lot of times, ironwork companies can do an emergency Band-Aid on a fire escape and make it functional. You know what I'm saying? So just so you know the options that are out there, you don't have to fully fix a fire escape. You're not going to remove the violations with any of these Band-Aids. This is just to tell you that at every situation, step number one, besides fire watches and vacating the building, there's satisfactory scaffolding out there that has the right rise and run on the stairs and everything that will act as a temporary second means of egress. They do this on buildings all the time when they need to reconstruct the second means of egress inside. They put it outside. They do it all the time. It's just I'm just giving you as a suggestion. I'm not telling you this is right. I'm just saying one of the suggestions when somebody's crying, I have no money, $1,000 a month will buy you 30 days. That's all it is. The temporary repair of the fire escape will buy you 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from an iron worker who's done some temporary shoring up the fire escape while you work with the owner. Otherwise, the only way that's going to remove that fire escape is certified repair and or a load test, which could be 6 months or a year away because the guy has no money. The bank owns it or some other crazy thing that's going on in this economic time. So just keep that in mind that as people tell you these things, there are temporary answers, and scaffolding is one of them, and a temporary repair. So now let me just show you one last piece here, and you guys, and that's the end of the class. Now these fire escapes. A lot of parking garages have egress systems. These are all traditional fire escapes, right? If you look at your code, you're going to find that all exit discharges, steel or wooden stairways need to be maintained. not just fire escapes, so. Are these all exit discharges? Balconies are gonna be coming up on your radar pretty soon in the future, because are they external? Are these waiting balconies? Areas of refuge need to be inspected? Hotels have these walkways. Back porches, these are fire escapes, and/or back porches. But if it's a second means of egress, wood or steel must be inspected. Inspected. If it's exposed, it needs to be maintained. Decks. We're just touching fire escapes today. But all exterior steel or wooden stairs and exit discharges must be inspected. Catwalks, handicap ramps. If they're exposed to the weather, they need to be maintained and inspected. How about these walkways, these bridges from restaurants, hospitals, schools? Okay? So all these things, I mean, today we're focusing on fire escapes, but in your future, you're gonna start looking at everything external on the building, and if it's gonna hold a fireman or hold a tenant, you're gonna want that taken care of. So we're gonna start out slow, we're gonna be focusing on fire escapes, wood or steel. Okay? I'll love to end on this one. Anybody ever hear of a spiral staircase? I mean, a slidescape. Elizabeth, New Jersey, 12 stories. This is us on the roof. You go through these two little doors, and every floor down below has these two little doors. And this is the whole piece right there. And then at the very bottom, it takes a right-hand turn. You go down this slide, and your feet hit this iron door with a paddle that your feet smack into. It opens up, and you go away.
You're hoping that.
And that's what it looks like when you're ready to jump in head first or tail first. And no potato sack included. They actually sent, they brought one of their guys, one of the rookies, and they threw one of the rookies down there from the 4th floor, because the door down below wouldn't open. So they sent him down there, and they have to, and this is a turn-of-the-century building, built in the 1900s, and this is an acceptable means of egress on this building. Elizabeth, New Jersey. So with that, I'll conclude the information that we have done for today. If anybody has any questions on I'll be around for a little bit. If anybody has any questions now, we got some of your cards. We're going to be passing information back to you, and you get off to them. And again, a lot of this will be in draft form. Whether or not you want to accept it is up to you individually, but these are just some industry standard forms and guidelines that we're using to modify whatever way you feel, or I work with you, and if you agree with everything, then they'll send it off to you. And the class will be recorded, so you'll be able to see this class usually within a week to 10 days. You'll see it online, and I'll send you the link to the very class. In case from your department, you can make them watch the class. Okay? And I'll be hanging on. If anybody else have any questions, because I don't want to then shoo you out of here, but still some coffee left, and I don't know if you need to speak at the end of this.
Yeah, just briefly, we've got everybody's got a show of hands for the Christmas party in December. That's the plan right now, is that we're gonna do it here for the December meeting. If there's any objections to that, let me know what they are. Otherwise, I'll get with Sue and Oscar, and we'll get that organized. And then I would make a motion that we suspend all the other parts of our normal meetings. And if anybody's got anything, we're good. If anybody's got anything that we need to talk about before we go, just in the addition of time, let us know what it is, and other than that, we'll adjourn.
Thanks for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you. You got my card, if you guys want to call. Ready, Thank you. Thank you for your input also. Oh, let me show you the letter that I can make. Give me the information. I'll give you a letter that you can fresh off the presses.
Well, no, you can't do stuff.
Hey, somebody called me up the other day, they want to take over the old Gary
Gary, I told him to
How you doing, my friend?
countdown, huh?
Huh?
So, what I did here is, National Fire Safety Association, Departmental Procedure and Guidelines, inspection, repairs, painting of fire escape. And I'll send you this one, and you just read it, and it says here, in layman's terms, the inspector is looking for a qualified individual for the inspection. Very generalized, we're talking about this code now. The repairs, it says, in layman's terms, the inspector is looking for you to pull a permit, and that the repairs you're doing are based on a report from this guy overseeing you and his repairs that he submitted to you, repair guidelines and stuff like that, and blah, 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 and all the way down. Generic, like what is the standard? That's all this is a departmental procedure and guidelines. It's not what the law says to do. Departmental procedure and guidelines. And then in painting, it says, what this guy is looking for you to do is, first of all, because we deal with lead laws now, you have to be a licensed renovator. And follow some basics of, notifying the people inside the building, plastics on the bottom, no, if you're gonna sandblast it, I need full encapsulation, that's a whole new permit process there, blah, blah, blah. These 3 steps is how you fix a fire escape. And it's all reference to this, so as you give me stuff from the NFPA, it says, Cisco, put down here this and this and this. Put it all down here, and then you say, Cisco, this is fine. This is general enough that I'm gonna speak with them anyway after this. No, this is fresh. I'll send him a copy of this, but if he gives me the information to go, I'll just put it down here and then I send it this. So this is becoming a generic. This is the first time that the NFPA has been the main driver. I've been all over the country, dude. And I'm getting fire code, I'm getting building code, housing code, and nobody's like, no, we only use NFPA. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird, right? So you caught me now, like, okay, I haven't been studying NFPA because NFPA is a guideline that, because nationwide, they always say, listen, we have building code or fire code, and then we reference the NFPA, which one is better. So that kind of thing was happening, like, our code or their code, whichever one is better. And now you guys say, no code. These guys, NFPA, I'm like, wait a second.
What are you gonna do now, sir?
And also the property management code, which is the housing side of it. You just find what the code is, we stick it in here, and we can have 3 issues. One is for you, one is for the building department, and one is for the housing department. You just give me their code, let's stick it in here. Then we send it, and then you just appropriately, like, oh, this guy, playing, can't catch this guy. Okay, well, let's catch him on the building side. Send this information guideline, I'm gonna call Chad. Chad's already gonna rubber stamp me
Okay, bro, you gotta get hold
this
of
guy's
it.
elusive, he's one of those smart guys that threw a lawyer at me, and he got me. He's not gonna get the building guy. Jack, write me a violation, and you hand the guy the building one. Yeah, you're in violation of this. Well, you're not building department, I know. Well, Jack is, and you'll be getting that in the mail by Monday. So, enjoy your life, and thanks for pissing me off. And by the way, my code says, load test will be issued. Guess what you're gonna do after all this shit you're gonna do? Guess what I still want? So you just pissed me off. So you're right, I didn't get you.
He does something else.
That road.
Well, now you know why on your end, as we start teaching this, I think everybody came out of here with a little bit more power in their pocket, saying, I can say all these things and do all these things, and the load test is my trump. So I've just made it to say, I'm putting fire escapes up there in par with everything else I need your respect. So sprinkler guys just don't go in and throw sprinklers in there without having a sit down with you. Well, I want to sit down with you with a fire.
I know, but they're on the class
both our processes.
So I'm trying to do now, so I got one flag, I need more people to hold my flag, but every now and then I get hit with a flag in the head when, because sometimes it's a nice rule, but every now and then I get someone citing code and beating me to death with my own stick. Like, I'm not here to interpret code, I'm just trying to tell you that there's ways to basically unify with your other three, because this is, I call it the perfect storm. Fire department was stupid, building department was stupid, and housing department was stupid. And somebody got done, and somebody dies. Now everybody starts pointing fingers and saying, well, you know, he said, no, 75 years, that three guys been looking at it, they look at that, so that's okay. But now I'm talking to the fire guys, which are the ones that always get killed or hurt, and I say, guys, today it's just you guys. But we're about to rope these guys back in and say, we're gonna watch this because it kind of falls in our code, but you're gonna help me find these things, watch these things, and whenever I don't have a code in my side to nail this guy, I got two other codes that I will use, because I'll know it, because it's only this code that I'm gonna be using to basically write a violation. And so I need a rubber stamp violation that when give me a violation on this address. Out right away. And now then we're dealing with this, and then now you can understand how a simple form, I just changed the code out here, and this is the Rhode Island Building Code. And then it'll be the Rhode Island Property Management Code, and the Rhode Island NFPA Code. Now you're like, okay, so what did you write a violation on? We have to get this guy in the building. All right, so email him the building one. This doesn't change, this doesn't change, this doesn't change. And now you're sort of slowly, because this is going to take 5 years for you guys to get back under control. Right, but at the same time, the main thing that we will really work with you is identifying these horses. Just getting, accepting the tag, because the one thing I haven't done here is start bringing in the tag, because we start running out of room. But I want to start bringing in the fire escape at the end of this, a tag shall be affixed. With that, which is the last piece of the puzzle that I need, and it's just a simple line, I just got to shrink the font a little bit more and stuff. But as soon as I say, a tag shall be affixed, identifying its condition. Well, what's that mean? Okay, I need a tag that identifies its condition. Well, what's the standard? Well, in Seattle, they have this white, red, and yellow tag system. So we want to sort of, instead of reinventing the wheel, let's just copy them. What's somebody going to say? No, that's illegal. Seattle does it. I mean, and they're a fire department. Oh, and their confidence is, dude, Seattle does this. Is that thing I showed. That's a Seattle tag. I mean, that's a Seattle confidence tag, which you can download. So, is there an industry standard? Yes. It's already out there because they. So this is where I would put you in touch with Portland, Oregon, because I just was there last month in Portland, Oregon. And guess what they're doing? They're changing their state code with the same issue. So this is how it works. I put you in touch with Stu White and AJ Jackson out there, and they say, what barriers are you running across? And you say, and how far have you gotten? We're done with the whole write-up that we've been studying for 5 years of trial and error crap, and and Cisco's been here and he helped us, and you're done. And you say, can I get a copy? You know what they say? Sure. And I'll say, and it's all done, right? Like tested and thought, and yeah. Here, you're like, okay, thanks. And then you walk into a meeting. I worked very hard on this. And, sleepless nights. We need to implement this. Oh, where's this from? Well, it's already throughout the country. As a matter of fact, Portland, they've adopted this into their code. And so, the greatest thing I like about it that I got as a class from a state fire marshal was in my class. He told Cisco, it's not administrative rule change because it's an uphill battle. It's not an ordinance because it's an uphill battle. It's specific to your own city and everybody else around you not doing it. It's kind of causes problems. It's called departmental procedure and guidelines. It's nothing but something that the industry has provided that says, here's a generic way to do it. You agree with it. In any way, does it point to any one company? And here's more or less how inspections should be done. This is more or less how repair should be done. This is more or less how things should be done. It's generic enough that it doesn't violate any code. Does it tell you what code? No. Does it tell you what camera to use? No. It's generic in nature, because at the end of all this says, and it says here, specific, and you'll like this here, and I'll briefly read it to you here, and you'll like it. By the way, I sent this out to Portland, and he corrected me on some of my misspellings here, but again, this was still in the draft form. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a qualified inspector to do critical inspection, and in parentheses, inspection criteria submitted prior, meaning so he has to send you his inspection criteria, that verifies and certifies that all connections are free of internal rust or rot, as well as original hardware, square or rivet bolts are reinforced and or replaced in lieu of a live load test. All supports, through bolts or cemented into the wall must be verified and certified in lieu of a live load test. A fire escape confidence test must be submitted if fire escape passed, and I gotta put the word tag in here. The reports with photos identifying violations for repairs must include repair criteria submitted to the official for repair vendor to use as guidelines during engineer oversight of permitted repairs. A fire escape confidence test is then submitted. And I need to put in here, a fire escape confidence test and tags are then submitted. Boom. Does that say anything in there that was
No, it's good.
offensive?
It's good because at the Cliffside Inn, for example, he kept asking me, well, what is it that you want to know? And I said, I don't really know what I want to know. It just says that I'm supposed to be confident that it works, and I'm not an expert. So
Right.
now I can say, here's what I need to know.
And is this generalized enough?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So now this, you can fax out, so every time you get an engineer call, you can have this set up in such a way that not only you send this out, but listen, this is what I do. Well, are you the repairer or the inspector? I'm the inspector. Great, let me send you this. That way you know what I expect from you and your repair guy. Because the repair guy says right there, in layman's terms, the city official is looking for a qualified repair vendor to do all work under repair permit with engineer oversight of repair criteria submitted for approval to the official. All connections must be free of rust, spot prime, blah, 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 it keeps going down. All square or rivet bolts must be certified, reinforced, or replaced due to age in lieu of live load test. So I'm already hitting that thing, says you got an aged fire escape,
And you have an option.
then you have an option. Reinforce these things, I'll replace them, whatever's cheaper, or give me a load test. Because now, you're playing with me, I got an aged fire escape here, and the only true test is a load test or some other form. And come speak with me, because I need you to do a vendor oversight. Then this one is gonna be talking about just that. It's gonna be talking about EPA, paint, lead, children, the thing, and that. And so if you can work with me, I'll get this back to you. This class is gonna be on the internet within 7 to 10 days. So some of the guys that did make the class, every one of them is gonna get this, and then you and I slowly, one fire escape at a time, will investigate and use that as a case study. So as we keep videotaping every time you and I meet, we'll document that and put that into a video class that you now send to every one of these guys that says what you did, what needed to be done. Because I've had the pleasure, and you'll see that on the fire escape inspector training, with me with commissioners walking alleyways, me with state building inspectors walking alleyways. You don't have to walk out. If you can watch video and gain knowledge, then I really don't need to drag you out in the rain today, which is probably what it is.
No, it was great.
So any other questions, or?
No, I'm good. I think it was great. It was great, great to have everybody kind of getting an idea as to what they should be looking for, and even how the process seems to work. Because I think looking at the fire escapes that we have, it hasn't been working.
Yeah.
You know, you can drive by and see, what we do about it. You know, it's right, to have it, teeth in it. Put the code on this, you know.
I'll start hounding you as of next week,
That's
because
okay.
that's how I do it. If you get me started, it's the toughest part is stopping me, so, and Rhode Island is one of our sister states, and I see an opportunity here, because we're out of Boston, and, we'd like to, to work with anybody and everybody that, wants to do something about it. And the other thing too that a lot of stuff we're putting together is really for all the vendors that are here already, because, even if you were to give me a fire escape a day, in the entire state of Rhode Island, that's only 365 fire escapes.
Right.
What about the other 10,000 fire escapes spread throughout? Who else is gonna do those? So if you don't have a standard for all your engineers coming in, scooping up this newfound opportunity, and all these repair vendors that are iron workers and welding companies, they all need work, they're all out there waiting to go work on these things. The problem is what's the standard? Well, that's what we just talked about today.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be fantastic.
Fire escape services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide. So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order. Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today. Alright, so is it on?
Yep.
Okay, Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training video. We're here with Gene Novak, right?
Right.
State Inspector. And what we're going to be doing, we're in town of Westboro. We just finished doing an academy training class, and we're doing what's called a downtown walk around, and we're just going to look at this fire escape as an example. And all around this fire escape, there's several types of the same type of fire escape that don't have cantilevers, that have ladders. So we're going to show you, and he's going to pass this on to all the members. And this is a YouTube link that basically it's going to be a 3 to 5 minute video. It could be 10 minutes because we're going to walk all the way around the building. But what an inspector has to do to no longer ever step on these things. All fire escape inspections can be done right from the ground. And there's two things. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So let's start off with the first one. Whether or not there's a violation here. If you could have gone in this building for something else, a permit of some kind, only to walk out here and identify that the fire escape is or has not been painted. So, first question, more rust than paint or more paint than rust?
Hey, this is about 50-50.
50-50.
So it's clearly a concern.
It's been, and in order for this much rust, just so you know, it takes over 25 years for this much rust to grow, of no paint job. And that's a proven fact, that it takes over 25 years for that this much to grow. Now, let's say they knew you were coming. Last week, we gave out a notice that said, hey, I'm coming to your building, I'm going to do an inspection, and I'm checking your fire escape. A building owner was like, oh man, I'm not going to pass. Who gets Joe Painter to come out and do a quick paint job on this? And it happens all the time. They want to mask it. Because a lot of times, you're only underneath it, you're looking for a paint job, and a lot of times the paint job can hide a lot. So let's assume it's all painted now. The second thing you're looking for is for testing, structural adequacy. This building is 50 to 75 years old or older, and the fire escape is original to the building, but every connection on this is original. So usually in 50, 75 years, you've seen some sort of maintenance. And that maintenance could be changing of bolts, because to know that it's original hardware, you're looking at rivets or square head bolts.
Square heads, yeah.
And you're looking for evidence of any bulges in the connection plates of any kind. So, without even looking for structural problems such as missing treads or anything, do you notice any new hardware? Anything? Any new little bolt?
Yes, we do.
Anywhere, okay?
So the largest square is, we see some hex heads on the stringer.
There you go. So it looks like they came in and did something with the staircase, and there's some hex heads. So if you want to zoom in on those stringers, You see some hex heads there.
And we also see some type of flange underneath looks like an add-on underneath the tread.
Okay, so it looks like they created a bracket to hold the old tread up above.
That's right.
All right, let's see what the old treads look like. Because are they welded or are they? So let's look over here. If you look in here, look at the original treads. Are they bolted or welded? Do they look like a certified welder to those? They do not. Even with your lack of experience as what is a certified inspection of a weld, you can see that it's kind of not the greatest. And did they repaint it after it was done?
I tell you, it doesn't look like they cleaned the welds off.
They didn't clean the welds. They didn't paint it.
I mean, they weren't inspected. We have a new tread here.
Right. So here's a new tread, a new piece of galvanized. So we've got some evidence of maintenance. Now, let's take a look at, if you look straight up, can you see any bulges in the clips of the treads that they just welded? You know, little rust tears, or can you see it? Especially that one.
Yes.
Now, especially that one, and Viv, if you can come in here.
I did already. I got
See
it.
the broken weld? See, welds snap, bolts stretch. So if I'm going to leave the rust inside a connection, 1 year, when the rust grows another 8, what happens to that weld? Just snaps. So is weld a means of repair for any fire escape? No. Fire escapes in the summer do this. They expand and do this. And in the winter they cool and contract and they do this. Now when you weld it, it does this. So that's why 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes. They're supposed to move with the building and they're supposed to cool with the building. That's why all fire escapes are bolted. Very few are welded. And a lot of times, you think when they weld it, they seal it up above so no water gets inside? Do you think water is getting inside those welds right now and basically eating the weld from inside out? So it makes it so you can't weld. So let's go step back. Let's take a look at the rest of the hardware. Square or square head or hex head. So the weights, nobody's done anything on this weight box.
Large bulge right here.
Large bulge. If you step back here, you're going to see some large bulge over here. This whole connector, this joint over here, see some bulging happening here?
Yep.
Let's look at the gussets over here. Original or square heads? All right, and look over here, straight up. Look at this gusset, straight up. If you come over here, then take a look at this gusset. And now, it's rust inside the connection. Yeah. And now, look, if you come over here, G, look at that gusset way back there. See a bulge on the top? Doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right? But do you even care whether or not on this 50 to 75-year-old fire escape, whether this gusset is beautiful, that gusset is compromised, and that gusset is compromised? Will an engineer load test a fire escape that has 50, 75, or 100-year-old square original hardware? Do you think he would want to? You wouldn't want to. Now, if I came in here and I just took out some of these bolts and I put in new bolts in the connections, one at a time, or if this one is in great condition, do you think I could squeeze another bolt between them? Do you think I could squeeze some other new holes in there? So I have a choice in preparation for this thing for a load test. If I find square head bolts that are in good to excellent condition, and I don't want to change them out, I can actually reinforce them by backing them up with another bolt. But sometimes it's faster for me to take an old bolt out and put a new bolt in than it is for me to drill a new one next to it. So whatever's cheaper to the client will prepare it for a load test. So this original hardware, I can't load test this platform, but I can refurbish this platform in lieu of a load test.
Where is this primary attached to the building? I don't see it.
The attachment to the building is going to come, let me see if I can see the two bolts. See right here. If you look straight up there, you can see that the two bolts into the building up there. Oh, sorry. And I think there's two bolts here that basically tie you into the building. It's actually above.
No, it's right there in the corner. Right in that corner, there's a hole that goes right in.
Yeah.
Right
Oh, I
at the
see,
corner.
yeah. There's this is basically, it's got a backing plate inside, even though it's a brick structure. And there's a rod that comes out, and then that rod, if you look up there's 3 bolts that come out. So the rod comes out round 1 inch, and then they smash it and they flatten it, and it becomes 3 bolts that connect to the angle. So you see 3 of them right there. Okay. And there's more that you can see. So let's move forward into the cantilever. Must be balanced and must drop 2 to 3 feet per second. This is the release arm.
Yeah.
So I can't break into this building because this release arm won't let me pull the cantilever down.
I don't even know how it works, it's just you turn
As
it.
soon as it blocks your way. Single action requiring no special knowledge, and when you push it away, it turns.
It's not even open.
No, but it turns. No, see, it's resting on the top. It's trying to drop.
Oh, okay, I see.
See, it wants to go up, so it stops. So that's a permanent release arm. When you release it, the thing will drop 2 to 3 50 seconds, look around and stay down. Let's take a look at some other things. You see some bending on the cantilever arm? Yeah. Now, they've obviously refurbished a lot of the treads on this whole fire escape. Right? Just to make it balance. And sometimes they add weight. This is perfect. Because now we're looking at from down here, so we can move on to this one. Can you tell me whether or not those are original or new? Alright, so when I load test that, so you want to see refurbishment or rebolting of the major critical connections. That is all the treads. You see all the treads rebolted. Are you satisfied that all the treads have been rebolted on this fire escape? There's evidence of maintenance, right? You can see it, right? So that means somebody refurbished the tread system. What about
Fire Escape Engineers Inspector Summary Video. We're here in Bristol, Pennsylvania. What we have here is a fire escape that is in very bad disrepair. Emergency repair is required, in a state of collapse. I'm going to be very careful of what I'm going to be doing here, but this fire escape is in need of immediate emergency repairs. Okay? And I'm here next to this other fire escape, which doesn't look so good either, but the fire escape right next to it, huge rust spots. It's a white fire escape, but doesn't look like it's in very good structural condition at all. Lots of it. But let's stick to the point here. This fire escape. First of all, it takes 25 years to let a quarter inch of rust grow, quarter to half inch of rust. We've got that in excess over here. So that means that this fire escape has been growing in excess for at least 25 to 50 years. So now, let me go down slowly what needs to be done. I'm looking for any evidence of maintenance. No evidence of maintenance on this fire escape at all. No new hex head bolts, no new shiny bolts anywhere. So this fire escape has not seen a repair in its lifetime. The fire escape has all original square head bolts everywhere, riveted connections, square head bolts everywhere. Square head bolts. Every one of these square head bolts must be removed and replaced. Some of these components must be replaced because they're rotted all the way through, but otherwise every major critical connection, corner rails, corner here, tiebacks, tie downs, frames of the platforms, all those square head bolts, 100% of them need to be replaced with a new bolt. The supports going down, 100% of the supports and the bolts and the through bolts need to be verified with a new epoxy bolt into the building. Now, I'm about to walk down this fire escape, which these treads are showing rust in excess of 3/4 to 1 inch. That takes 25 to 50 years of neglect. This is 1.5 inches of rust on this stringer clip holding up this entire staircase. It is eaten all the way through. Yet the bolt is still here that if I move it around, if I had a quick hammer test of that, that would just pop. But that is 1.5 inches. That is over 50 years of growth. In 50 years of growth, 25 to 50 years. Look at all these treads. To grow this much rust, you need to have more than 25 years of unchecked rust growth here. 25. Every one of these treads, if I was to hammer test them today, would fall through. I'm being very cautious in my walking of this fire escape. Now, 25 to 50 years to get this much rot on a clip. 25 to 50 years for the clip to go away. Look at all the rot there. That is 1.5 inch worth of rust. To let it grow that big, you need 25 to 50 years. Every one of these connections, 100% of all these treads need to be rebolted. All the rust must be removed. This fire escape is older than 1978, so it's presumed to have lead. You must be a licensed renovator to touch this fire escape, so that you know what to do with lead. There's people living in this building. I got obstructions. I got bricks. I've got carts. I've got all these things must be removed from the fire escape. That through bolt is unverifiable. So I need an epoxy bolt below it or next to it and then tying back to the structure because there's no way to verify that through bolt or that one. So we need an epoxy bolt. Unless they want to go inside the wall and prove that the plate on the inside is in good condition, that bolt is now unverifiable. All these corners, all these connections, new bolts, all these corners. Now these riveted rails don't need to be verified. You just need to hammer test these to make sure that these don't pop. But if any of them pop, you got to put a new bolt in. Otherwise, the superstructure on the rails need rebolting, not the little pickets. If they're in good condition, they can stay. Renovators, it's a license that you need to have in order to touch lead fire escapes. No welding on this fire escape at all. No welding. You need to pull a permit to do any and all work on this fire escape. You must pull a permit. All structural connections must be clean of 100% of the rust, then rebolted. All these corners, all these frames of the support and the platform must be rebolted. These are all 50 to 75-year-old bolts or greater. This connection, rebolted. That just screws. You need to lag bolt this into properly. Now, take a look at this. 25 to 50 years of unchecked growth. Not only does that, but look, it's eaten. This stringer clip is gone. It's ate away. This whole thing is eaten away. I've never seen so much deterioration. Look at that. That's 25 to 50 years of unchecked growth. A metallurgist will tell you it takes 25 to 50 years or more to let this much rust grow in treads, in connections. Just look at that. I mean, we got rust. I've never seen something. Look at that. Look how big that is. That's 1.5 inches of rust. It takes 25 to 50 years of unchecked maintenance to let it grow that big. All these bolts, 100% of all the superstructure square head bolts must be removed, rebolted. This is no longer tied in. Look. Put my finger in here. Look how bad. Look at this. This is what the bolts look like on the inside. This used to be most likely there. See? 100%. Rivets are popped on a lot of these. Those need to be redone. If I was to kick that, I'd probably be able to break that. 100% of all the treads. We've got noise here, obstructions. Looks like people get out here and people come out here. So we got to make sure that this is a safe. Look at all the rust and growth, freeze and thaw. There's rust there. 100% that needs to be cleaned out. Look at this connection in here. Look what happens when water gets in there and just works at it. 25 to 50 years of unchecked growth. Take a look at this connection. All these connections going down the stairs. Again, every one of these treads has got rust growth of anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of rust. 100% of this staircase is in life safety mode. This is an emergency repairs. Look at the growth of that. Look at the growth of this one. These supports. My God, I've never seen anything so horrible. This is one of my top 10. Look how much growth is there. This stringer is unsupported. If people went down, this thing would fall. If firemen came up, this thing would fall. I'm being very careful as I go down. 25 to 50 years of unchecked growth. Every single one of these treads has huge rust growth of anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. In some areas, you can actually see all the way through. You just see all the way through. Unsupported treads. You have to be careful that if it were to fall through, this will hurt somebody. 100% of all the treads need to be rebolted. Supports, rebolt, tiebacks into the buildings. They're feeding water into the building and spalling. See the through bolts up there? You need to verify with the plate on the inside, or you need to give me new epoxy bolts on the outside, or new backing plates on this fire escape. All these treads, look at this. Stays ready to go. You step on that with any great force as a tenant or a fireman. 100%, look at that. So this fire escape needs emergency repairs immediately, and then let's see where this goes. That's how they get into the backyard and get away. Very good. So, fire escape. Structurally unsafe, life safety issues, needs emergency repairs, needs a full paint job. You must pull a permit on this project in order to do any repairs. Emergency repairs.